Hello everyone, let's continue our lecture on food. For our class today, we will work on a new TED Talk called Why I Am a Weekday Vegetarian and do some practice on comprehension and also critical thinking. This is the shortest talk we have watched so far, but I believe he actually shows us several qualities of an effective public speaker. We can actually learn quite a bit from him. I will explain a bit more later. And in the second part of our class today, we will review the uses of future tense and introduce two more tenses, which are future continuous and future perfect. And I will also assign you different practice to help you pick them up better. Okay, before we start, please remember to download the transcript of the TED Talk from Tron Class, and you can either fill in the transcript while you are watching the TED Talk, or you can fill those blanks in after listening to my lecture to help you review. Both ways work. Okay, so if you take a look at perspective 2, page 52, I would like you to take a look at the section authentic skills here, authentic listening skills. So the skills we can learn from the speaker, Graham Hill, is pausing. So when people are speaking to an audience, they often pause to break their sentence up into shorter sections or chunks. You need to do that to help your audience process the information. Okay? This makes it easier for listeners to follow. And how do speakers pause? They often pause at the end of sentences or where there's a comma or other situation. And they pause to separate adverbial phrases, for example, expressions about time or place. And they often pause before an important word or phrase to help them emphasize the key word. And they often pause between the subject of a sentence and its verb when the subject is long to help the audience process the information. Okay, so this is a good skill we should all practice when we speak. So as usual, you always need to consider the delivery of the speaker. How do you characterize his speaking skills? And also, how does he engage with the audience? How does he interact with the audience? Does he tell jokes or does he show effective images? And so far, we have listened to 5 speakers. How is he different from the previous speakers? If you can create a chart that compares and contrasts the quality of those speakers, I believe you can come up with a report that helps you find your own style in public speaking. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. First of all, we need to pick up some words. Okay, cruelty. It comes from the adjective cruel. It means extremely unkind behavior or extremely violent. Taste buds are cells on your tongues that allows you to have different tastes, to recognize different tastes. Tuck, okay, it means to put something into. So to help you remember these words better, I will give more information about taste buds and tuck into later. And stall means to delay taking action, to postpone something. Okay, so usually we will use this verb, okay, with taste buds, like titillates your taste buds. Okay, it means to make someone or something excited. So titillate your taste buds means to make the cells on your tongues very active and excited. So usually we use this verb phrase to talk about foods that excites you, flavorful food. And tuck into, okay, we usually use it to talk about how we dress. Okay, so you tuck your shirt into your jeans. Okay, and pitch Okay, it means to try to persuade someone to do something. And binary is a key word here. It means consisting of two. So, for example, men and women. This is an example of a binary system. Hypocritical. It means someone's belief and their behavior are not consistent. It means they tell everyone to do A, but they actually don't do A at all. So we call this type of person a hypocrite. Okay, a hypocrite. So to help you understand what a binary system is, I just gave you the example of men and women. This is a binary situation, but you are all familiar, or you should all be familiar with the spectrum LGBTQIA. This is the spectrum for our gender, okay, and sexuality. So this is a spectrum. So when we think about someone's gender and sexuality, it's not always binary. It's not always men and women only. Some people might not think the label men and women is enough to show people who they really are. So now we also have the idea of the gender preferred pronouns. If you do look at some cases in America or watch some TV shows, series from America, you do see some people use they to call themselves because they regard themselves as possessing both quality from men and women. So they might be a more appropriate pronoun to address themselves. Okay, so this is just for your reference and also to give you a good idea of what a binary system is. Binary is going to be a key word in this talk. Okay, so let me play the introduction.
About a year ago, I asked myself a question. Knowing what I know, why am I not a vegetarian? After all, I'm one of the green guys. I grew up with hippie parents in a log cabin. I started a site called Tree Hugger. I care about this stuff. I knew that eating a mere hamburger a day could increase my risk of dying by a third. Cruelty, I knew that the 10 billion animals we raise each year for meat are raised in factory farm conditions that we hypocritically wouldn't even consider for our own cats, dogs, and other pets. Environmentally, meat, amazingly, causes more emissions than all of transportation combined. Cars, trains, planes, buses, boats, all of it. And beef production uses 100 times the water that most vegetables do. I also knew that I'm not alone. We as a society are eating twice as much meat as we did in the 50s. So what was once the special little side treat now is the main and much more regular. So really, any of these angles should have been enough to convince me to go vegetarian. But there I was, tucking into a big old steak. So why was I stalling? I realized that what I was being pitched was a binary solution. It was either you're a meat eater or you're a vegetarian. And I guess I just wasn't quite ready. Imagine your last hamburger. So my common sense, my good intentions, were in conflict with my taste buds. And I'd commit to doing it later. And not surprisingly, later never came. Sound familiar? So I wondered, might there be a third solution? And I thought about it, and I came up with one, and I've been doing it for the last year, and it's great. It's called Weekday Veg.
All right, let's unpack this effective introductions. Okay, So from the introductions, we can see the speaker analyze why we should all be vegetarians from different aspects, right? So first of all, he talks about that it's cruel to raise animals for human consumptions because those animals are raised in inhumane conditions, and we don't do that for our pets. So it's hypocritical for us to eat meat. And for environment, it is also good if we stop eating meat because raising animals for human consumption actually causes more pollutions than all the transportations combined. Okay, so these are all good reasons, compelling reasons why everybody should be vegetarians. Then what stops him? The problem is he is being pitched a binary situation. So what is the binary here? It's either you eat meat or vegetables. So for him, this is quite difficult. He wants a third alternative. And that third alternative is weekday vegetarian. Okay? So from the introduction, we can also learn, okay, the three appeals from Aristotle. So Aristotle talks about these three appeals we can use to present an effective, okay, speech. So ethos refers to ethics and credibility, whether or not your information is credible, or do you establish authority in the information you give. And pathos refers to emotions. So whether or not your delivery, okay, pose emotional impact on the audience, and can the audience relate to whatever you are saying. And also logos, okay, reasons, facts, and statistics. So from the introduction of this talk, we can see the speaker appeals to our emotion, right? Like the cruelty we see in the farm that raises animal for human consumptions, and also appeals to our reasons. The author gives statistics to tell us that raising animal for human consumption actually creates more pollution than all the transportation combined. So this is something you can consider using in public speaking to help you make your point better and effectively. Okay? Alright, so before we move on to the other part of the talk, let's pick up some words. Culprit means someone who has done something wrong. Okay, so for example, if you put on 10 kilograms and you try to look back at your diet and you realize that, oh, you eat Doritos every day, 3 bags of Doritos in fact, then you will say Doritos is the culprit. Sustainable means to cause little or no damage to the environment. So now we have sustainable fashion, sustainable diet, so clothes or diet that don't do any damage to the environment. Harvest means to pick and collect crops. Lesson means to make something less strong. In terms of means in relation to something. So this is a phrase you should use more to help you organize and introduce your ideas when you speak and when you write. And give somebody something a shot means to try to do something. Okay, so let's listen to the body paragraphs and the conclusion actually.
The name says it all. Nothing with a face, Monday to Friday. On the weekend, your choice. Simple. If you want to take it to the next level, remember that the major culprits in terms of environmental damage and health are red and processed meats. So you want to swap those out with some good sustainably harvested fish. It's structured, so it ends up being simple to remember, and it's okay to break it here and there. After all, cutting 5 days a week is cutting 70% of your meat intake. The program has been great, weekday veg. My footprint's smaller, I'm lessening pollution, I feel better about the animals, I'm even saving money. Best of all, I'm healthier, I know that I'm going to live longer, and I've even lost a little weight. So please, ask yourselves, for your health, for your pocketbook, for the environment, for the animals, what's stopping you from giving weekday veg a shot? After all, if all of us ate half as much meat, it would be like half of us were vegetarians. Thank you.
Alright, so this is quite a nice and short talk, right? So from the body paragraph first, we have the definition for a weekday vegetarian. It means you eat vegetables only from Monday to Friday, and on weekend you can eat whatever you want. So it's quite a flexible diet, okay? And it also talks about the major culprit. So the major culprit is the meat, right? It's the meat. So if you cut down the meat, you can cut 70% of your meat footprint. So I will give you a link to help you calculate the footprint, okay, you create for each meal, okay? So you will see a calculator, and you just type in what you eat for that meal, and you can get a statistic. And for the conclusion, the speaker reiterates the benefits, okay, of becoming a weekday vegetarian. Again, to convince people that practicing this kind of diet can do good to the environment and also to yourself. And he ends his talk with a proposal to invite everyone to become vegetarians. All right. Now, these are some images, okay, for sustainable eating and the protest about sustainable eating. I will offer you the links on Trunk Class for your reference. Okay, now please go to page 52. Okay, let's do some comprehension practice. First, why does Graham say to the audience, imagine your last burger? So he says this because he wants them to see what a difficult decision becoming a vegetarian is. So asking questions can draw your audience attention and get them interested in your talk. Number 2, which of these rules is part of Graham's solution? So it should be C, right? Reduce the amount of meat you eat by 70% because meat is the culprit of environmental pollution. 3, which part of Graham's solution is he happiest about? So not about creating so much pollution, has more money. It's actually he is healthier. He lost some weight, right? Okay, now we do have a practice that helps you develop your critical thinking. So could you take a look at the section, okay, that says critical thinking on page 53? Okay. So critical thinking, it says there are many ways that speaker can use to persuade their listeners to do things. They can A, describe personal experiences that others can relate to, or C, offer choice and flexibility, or F, ask listeners to imagine a situations. So could you identify which uses which kind of persuasion is each sentence about under activity 9? So activity 9, you see 8 sentences, right? So could you match them with the type of persuasion they are using in the sentence? So pause the video lecture and do that. Okay, so I assume you just did that. So let's take a look. So for the first type of persuasion. Describe personal experiences that others can relate to. Number 2 and number 4 are using this type of persuasion. Any of these angles should have been enough to convince me to go vegetarians. Okay, yet there I was tucking into a big old steak. And 4, I commit to doing it later, and not surprisingly, later never came. Sound familiar? So this is about his personal experiences that the audience can also relate to. And B, make it sound achievable, make it sound easy. So which sentences make people think it's easy? 5, 6, and 7, right? I've been doing it for the last year and it's great. It's called weekday veg. So when you think something is good, it is usually easy to practice. 6, on the weekend, your choice, simple. So you see the word simple. So of course, this is also making it sound achievable. 7, it's okay to break it here and there. When people can break rules, it's easy. C, offer choice and flexibility. 6 and 7. So on the weekend, your choice. You see the word choice. 7, it's okay to break it here and there. Here and there suggests flexibility. D, point out the personal benefits of doing it. So number 8, best of all, I'm healthier. So health, I know I'm going to live longer. So life and weight loss, these are all benefits. E, ask themselves and the audience questions. So here, number 1, knowing what I know, why am I not a vegetarian? So this is a question directed to the speaker and also to the audience. Finally, ask listeners to imagine a situation. So this is number 3, imagine your last burger. Okay, so these are different types of persuasions, people use when they talk in public to get the audience interested in their delivery. Okay, try to use them in your presentation in the future. Okay, and this is your discussion for today. 2 questions. Why is vegetarianism getting more and more popular? And would you consider becoming a weekday vegetarian? Why or why not? Remember to follow the guidelines for the group discussion and make sure your response is well organized.